Hey, Soulmates. Thank you so much for allowing us to be a part of your Monday. Just in case you're just joining us, let's tap back into some of today's top stories. A relative of Emmett Till is suing to try and make a Mississippi sheriff serve a 1955 arrest warrant on a white woman in the kidnapping that led to his brutal murder. Last June, a team doing research at the courthouse in Lafleur County, Mississippi, found an unserved 1955 arrest warrant for Carolyn Bryant, listed on that document as Mrs. Roy Bryant. Till's cousin, Patricia Sterling of Jackson, Mississippi, filed a federal lawsuit against the current Lafleur County sheriff to serve Bryant. And the College Board is breaking its silence and is firing back at top Florida officials over the state's ban of a new AP Black Studies course. The board released a statement saying that the national education nonprofit should have more quickly addressed claims that the course was indoctrinating students and lacked educational value, overall calling these claims slander. Now, the organization also said that Florida's public and private objections had no bearing on changes the College Board made to the final curriculum of the course, which it released earlier this month. And the Shelby County District Attorney's Office says that they will go through every single case handled by the former Memphis Police Department officers who played a role in the fatal beating of Tyree Nichols. Now, the officers were members of the department's Scorpion unit. The unit was launched 2 years ago to patrol what police say are high crime areas. It's since been disbanded. A total of 7 officers have been fired in connection to Tyree's death. The 3 emergency medical workers have also been fired. And lastly, here to Ohio, where footage is now out of a press conference taking a dangerous turn. Ohio State Police slapped handcuffs on Evan Lambert. You see here, a reporter for TV news network News Nation. Now, according to the network, Lambert was asked by police to stop his live report because they say it was disruptive. There are conflicting accounts of what really happened next, but it ended with this particular reporter being booked on charges of criminal trespass and resisting arrest. News Nation says it intends to fight in court. Need Court Alive, back over to you.
Thanks, Courtney. Now, a building believed to be the oldest surviving schoolhouse for Black children in the United States was recently hoisted onto a flatbed truck and moved a half-mile to a Virginia museum that continues to expand its emphasis on African American history. The Bray School was established in 1760, built 25 years before the American Revolution, and the original structure stood near the college campus of William and Mary. The Pinewood building held as many as 30 students at the time, some of them free Black children studying alongside the enslaved. Now, hundreds of people lined the streets to celebrate its slow-speed trip into the heart of the Living History Museum, which tells the story of Virginia's colonial capital through interpreters and restored buildings.
All right, let's get into some of this new money we told you about before the break. One of the most important social justice advocates of the 20th century will appear on a U.S. quarter. Civil rights advocate Pauli Murray will be honored as a part of the American Women's Quarters program. That's Pauli. The 2024 U.S. quarters are currently being prepared to circulate. The United States Mint made the announcement, including Murray and those designs, which are set to be released in mid-2023.
And in more Black girl magic and Mint news, salsa music icon Celia Cruz will soon be the first Afro-Latina to be featured on a United States quarter. Cruz will be honored as a part of the American Women Quarters program, appearing on the U.S. quarter. According to sources, Cruz's appearance will make her the first Afro-Latina to be featured in the American Women's Quarter program ever. So excited that both of these trailblazers,
that's right,
are being featured in this way. I have long admired Pauli Murray. She is she, or some people might say they, are a hero of mine, and really a hidden figure until recently. There's a terrific documentary that's out called My Name is Pauli Murray. I encourage folks to check it out. They are absolutely an American treasure.
Yeah, I will have to take your advice on that. I love documentaries. Those are my jams. So I will definitely, because for me, a hidden figure, this is like with the talk of the new quarters is first I'm hearing of her and her efforts. But I am very familiar with Celia Cruz, baby. She was just an icon, just a ball of energy. And not only was she an entertainer, but like most of those entertainers from that decade, from that day, from that generation, they also had to be civil rights leaders in their own right. And she just tore down so many walls and broke through so many glass ceilings. She was just a ball of energy. And she is really the face, in my opinion, of that Afro-Cuban life, if you will, or lifestyle or culture, if you will, and is still very much held in high regard. So it's going to be good to see her on a quarter too.
And it's a reminder that Black folks are not a monolith, that there is a wide range, right? From Pauli Murray to Celia Cruz. These are pioneers, that demonstrate that, Black is beautiful in so many different forms. And so, I'm just thrilled that the U.S. Mint has decided to recognize them in this way. I think it's incredible. I got a few more
for the list. Let's keep it coming, U.S. Mint, folks. All right, let's get into some Black history here. A couple of moments that happened today in Black history. Let's start with the year 1957. The Southern Christian Leadership Conference was organized at a New Orleans meeting with Martin Luther King Jr. as president. And in 1970, the New York Stock Exchange admits its first Black member by the name of Joseph Searles. Searles is a former investment and commercial banker recognized for his experience in financial asset development and urban revitalization. And those are some Black history facts for today.
All right, and we all know that Black history isn't just reserved for February, especially right here on Fox Soul's Black Report. It's a daily celebration of our contributions.
365, and we want to make sure we honor the contributions of those who fought for the freedoms we have today. Here's the story of the Civil Rights Children Crusade. Take a listen.
This is kind of a sick place, Birmingham is. But not only are the white people sick, but the Negroes are sick also. And all we need to do is get up and start walking.
You might look at these images from 60 years ago and say these young protesters spilling out onto the streets of downtown Birmingham were on the right side of history.
They just started letting the dogs out. I mean, they used the billy clubs.
Truth is, like MLK was not loved by all back then, not everyone believed this was a good idea at the time.
Many adults thought we should not have been put at risk.
Among these protesting civil rights foot soldiers,
Paulette Roby,
Judith Rep Stickney,
Janice Wesley Kelsey.
I went to jail for my freedom in 1963 at the age of 13. I was a baby.
They were all babies. Roby was only 13. Wesley Kelsey was 16. All wanted the simple things racial segregation wouldn't let them have, things taken for granted today.
I just wanted to be able to walk in the front door. I wanted to be able to drink from the water fountain.
I didn't like that I had to pay the same price for a hot dog and Coke, but I could not sit down and eat it.
These days, follow the signs of the Civil Rights Trail in downtown Birmingham, and you'll find the Civil Rights Activist Committee headquarters.
Her name is Mamie Chamberlain. She just passed away right after Thanksgiving.
This is where the now adults keep the stories alive. On the wall, the preacher, SELC's James Bevel, the man who orchestrated the Children's Crusade, recruiting kids when it became difficult to find adults to march and be jailed. The goal? Put Birmingham to shame in front of the world and force desegregation. 16th Street Baptist Church held a number of mass meetings.
And they was in there and it was on. It was on. It really was. I mean, got you real fired up. We was fired up when we walked out of that church. You know, you wanted to go to jail.
Stickney says many of these children were not from the middle-income neighborhoods like Titusville, kids of teachers, preachers, and doctors.
The maids' kids versus the people, the school teacher kids. I'm not saying none of them didn't get out there, but their parents might have thought that they made it and they didn't need anymore.
And know this, most of the children protested and went to jail without their parents' permission. And when you got bailed out, what did your parents say?
I don't know if I can say it on tape. My mom was really upset.
She didn't quite think we would get involved in going to jail. We called it D-Day, where the kids came out of the schools by the thousand. It was over. It was over.
The protests led to Birmingham agreeing to desegregate and is credited with breathing new life into the civil rights era with the eventual passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Wesley, whose brother also protested, says her mom eventually came around.
Not too many years later, she was proud of the fact that her children, that she had at least two of us who had stood up for what we believed in and tried to right the wrong.
And be on the right side of history.
Wow, that was
powerful.
Very, very powerful. You know, it made me think that there's this old adage, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Even back then, those babies were coming out of school in protests of what they felt was better or more right or wrong. And so to see that, you know, decades ago and now to be reporting on that again, some things just don't change.
Yeah. But, you know, I'm reminded of something that Coretta Scott King would say often, is that the fight for civil and human rights must be fought and won by every generation. And so I think part of what we're seeing right now, protests in Alabama by young people who are saying, wait a minute, you know,
this isn't right.
You know, take your hands off of my my curriculum. You know, folks saying that, you know, everybody belongs, black folks belong, LGBTQ folks belong, women belong. That this is the fight for every generation. And so, you know, when we report on this stuff, it's important to note that, you know, we're not sitting out there helpless. You know, there are folks that are asserting their agency, that are lifting their voice, and voices are being heard.
And it all started with the youth. I think this piece confirms that, you know, SNCC, they were young adults, like early 20s, late teens, late high school years, early college years, very, very young. And sometimes when I look back on stories, because it just fascinates me that they were so young, like they were talking, they were 13, 14 in this piece. Was I that conscious and aware? I mean, I know times were different. I'm a 70s and 80s kid, but I don't know if I had that type of composure or that type of awareness. Maybe it's because on the backs of what they did, I was able to enjoy my childhood differently. I'd have to explore that a little bit more, but I don't know if I would have been there. Just the maturity, you know, that was a different kind of teenager back then.
It was.
You had to be, I guess, to stay alive.
It was, and I'm thinking about my mom. My mom will be 70 years old in November.
Okay, so she was.
And so this is my mom's generation. Every single one of those women that appeared on camera are old enough to be my mother. And I remember the stories that she would share growing up, you know, in the Jim Crow South. I remember the story that she shared the day that Martin Luther King was assassinated, right? And being at a Woolworths or a Walgreens with my grandfather and seeing, you know, a group of white kids snickering, you know, celebrating the fact that Martin Luther King had been assassinated. And so that was not that long ago. We look at these photos that are oftentimes black and white, right? But this was not that long ago.
No, my grandmother's 96. And so you can imagine what she can recall. Her father was 95. I knew him. He lived till I was like in my 11 or 12. So we don't have to go that far when it comes to our history, black history. So we just stay mindful of that. Still ahead, a $40,000 fine for 2 words.
That's right. We'll tell you which NBA player is paying up for his post-interview comments. You don't want to miss this. You're watching Fox Soul's Black Report.